I didn't hear anything to that extent from you, Mr. Fiato. So you think AllState handled it just fine?
No, I stated in my statement that I regret that Ms. McGall is unhappy with the.
Yeah, well, that's like saying, I'm sorry you're unhappy, right? That's, I apologize, but I don't apologize. Would you like to apologize to her now? Maybe I just misunderstood her. Based on the witness statements I've taken for witnesses, it sounds like to me that it really ought to be amended to say that our customer's worst day is your big profit opportunity. I mean, we've just heard testimony here, sworn testimony from multiple adjusters that your company ordered them to delete or alter damage estimates to reduce payouts and to make you profits. It sounds to me like you're running a system of institutionalized fraud.
Hello, Patriots. Welcome back to Signal 76, your fortress of truth in an ocean of corporate lies and government corruption. I'm your host, and today we're diving deep into something that should make every red-blooded American's blood boil. We're talking about how the insurance industrial complex is systematically defrauding hardworking Americans while padding their own pockets with billions in profits. This isn't just business as usual. Folks, this is economic warfare against the American people. Before we get started, I need you to hit that subscribe button right now, because YouTube's algorithm is constantly trying to suppress channels like ours that tell the truth. Smash that like button, drop a comment below with your own insurance horror stories, and watch this video all the way to the end, because I'm going to reveal some shocking connections that the mainstream media refuses to talk about. We're going to expose how this corruption goes all the way to the top and why it's part of a broader assault on American families.
Thank you very much to both of the witnesses. We'll now have 5-minute rounds of questions. We'll do a couple of rounds here, and I will start. Let me just start with you, Mr. Fiato. So I take it from your statement just now that you don't have any regrets about Ms. Miguel's case. Mr. Keating apologized to Mr. Vertel and promised to work with him resolve his case. Thank you for that, Mr. Keating. I didn't hear anything to that extent from you, Mr. Fiato. So you think AllState handled it just fine?
No, I stated in my statement that I regret that Ms. McGall is unhappy with the.
Yeah, well, that's like saying, I'm sorry you're unhappy, right? That's, I apologize, but I don't apologize. Would you like to apologize to her now? Maybe I just misunderstood her.
I would like to say, is Ms. McGall here?
You go ahead. I'm sure she's watching.
Hi, Ms. McGall. I'd like to say, I want to make sure that we get your claim resolved to your satisfaction. And if there's additional information or things that we can do to continue to work with you, we'll do that.
So I noticed that you said in your written testimony, you just repeated it here. Let me make sure I get this right. I'm going to quote you now. We live and breathe our motto, our customer's worst day needs to be our best. I have to tell you, Mr. Fiato, based on the testimony I've heard today, based on the witness statements I've taken for witnesses, it sounds like to me that it really ought to be amended to say that our customer's worst day is your big profit opportunity. I mean, we've just heard testimony here, sworn testimony from multiple adjusters that your company ordered them to delete or alter damage estimates to reduce payouts and to make you profits. It sounds to me like you're running a system of institutionalized fraud.
Yeah, that would be incorrect, Senator. That's not what we do.
So you have never ordered, AllState has never asked an adjuster to change an assessment on their report?
When we review an adjuster's estimate, most often for authority requests. So most adjusters have an amount of financial authority that they can settle claims up to without having to.
No, wait a minute. That's not what they testified to. That's not what they just testified to. You just heard sworn testimony from multiple adjusters, and they said it happened. One adjuster had only ever worked for you over years in the industry, and he said he was repeatedly directed by you, by your company, AllState, to change factual findings, to delete material in his reports, to alter his reports, to make them factually incorrect, all with the purpose of driving down the award and padding your profits.
I disagree with his statement.
Well, you know, I have to notice that, I mean, your profits have never been better. I mean, they're really quite extraordinary. Fiscal year 24, AllState had $64 billion in revenue. That's 12% above the previous year. You made $4.6 billion in profits. And your CEO, Tom Wilson, last year was paid $26 million. Now, Ms. Miguel can't get her claim paid out, but Tom Wilson, whoever the heck he is, gets $26 million. I mean, that's really extraordinary. Do you not have the money to pay people like Ms. Miguel? Why is she not a priority, but Tom Wilson's salary is?
We've paid Ms. McGall's claim.
No, you didn't. You have given her a paltry sum. Your own adjusters, you said in your testimony just a second ago, you sent out an adjuster. In fact, you sent out 3. And 2 of those adjusters testified just now under oath that your company ordered them to alter their reports against their will, contrary to their advice, and in fact to render them factually inaccurate. That's extraordinary.
I disagree with their statement.
You disagree that's what they said?
I disagree that that's our process.
So they're lying. That's what you're saying.
I can tell you that, for example, Mr. Schroeder wrote 15 estimates for us. None of those were reviewed by AllState.
Listen to another piece of testimony from another witness. This is a whistleblower report that has come into us. This person says, I've dedicated my entire adult life to the claims adjusting world in numerous roles. I worked for Pilot and AllState for 12 years as an independent adjuster. I work claims all over the country regularly throughout the years, and I have watched the progression and controlling nature of claims worsen progressively. AllState created an internal review team with the sole purpose of making sure claims were paid as low as possible. AllState reviewers instructed adjusters to alter and delete factual findings in their estimates to drive down the cost of the claim. The alterations and deletions were often factually wrong. During Hurricane Isaac in 2012, an email was sent out that no adjuster could buy a roof no matter the damage present. This looks like a pattern. This is someone who's not even involved in this case in Hurricane Helene. We've heard from person after person. All this testimony is on the record. It sounds to me like your company is running a racket, and you're making more than you ever have.
Those are not our processes, Senator.
But multiple people have testified that they are. In fact, this really all goes back to a strategy that your company pioneered with the McKinsey company back in the 90s. Isn't that right? Let's just take a look here at what McKinsey advised AllState as early as the 1990s. You went to McKinsey and asked them, how can we get rich? And McKinsey gave you this advice. Sit and wait. They said, delay, delay, delay. It's a zero-sum economic game. There can only be one winner, and the winner's going to be AllState. It's not going to be the policyholders. And then good hands or boxing gloves. McKinsey suggests AllState make a low offer on a claim, like you did to Miss Miguel. And then, if the policy owner has the temerity to protest, you go after him hard, just like you did to her. Her home hasn't had one lick of work done on it, not one lick. And yet you sit here today and say you're sorry she feels badly about it. I mean, this is really your strategy, is it not? And it's made your company just filthy rich.
That report is over 25 years old.
And you've implemented it to the T in those 25 years.
We've had multiple departments of insurance indicate that this is not an issue or we're doing anything untowards.
What do you mean it's not an issue? You're saying that you don't follow McKinsey's advice?
That's not the way we handle claims.
You've never done it this way? You didn't go and seek their advice?
I've been at AllState for about a year and a half. I can't speak to what happened 25 years ago.
Oh, I see. This all predates you. You don't know anything about it.
I don't know anything about the McKinsey report.
No, of course. Right. Deny, delay, right? It's the same tactics over and over. Let me ask you, do you ever engage in retaliation for employees who come before committees like this one or who raise objections to what you're doing, to the fraud that you're engaged in? Would you ever retaliate?
It's a hypothetical question, but the answer
it's not hypothetical, but go ahead. What's the answer?
The answer would be, of course not.
Well, we just heard sworn testimony from Mr. Milliken that you have retaliated against him, that he has been informed by AllState that he is not going to be doing any further work. I see your suits behind you are shaking your heads. No.
AllState didn't have any communication with...
Never had any communication with Mr. Milliken on this subject. You're under oath now.
Of this specific, we've communicated with Mr. Milliken for many times. He's worked for Pilot for 8 years.
It sounds like now we're prevaricating.
No, we're not.
Now we're prevaricating. So my question is, have you retaliated against Mr. Milliken?
Of course not.
Did you tell Mr. Milliken that he won't be doing any further cases with AllState?
Not that I'm aware of.
Not that you're aware of.
Of course not.
Have you taken you or AllState taken any adverse action against Mr. Milliken ever at all?
No.
Have you done that? Has AllState ever done that against any other employee?
I can't answer that question. I can only answer what I've done. No.
In fact, you've been sued multiple times in court after court after court for retaliation. You've been sued for fraud successfully time after time after time. Mr. Fiato, I have to tell you, I find your testimony absolutely stunning here today. I can't believe after what we've heard, I can't believe after what Ms. Miguel has been through that you would sit here and insist that everything is fine and above board. I can't believe that this pattern of fraud that you would have nothing to say about and these outrageous profits I mean, don't you think that your policyholders deserve better than this?
I'm not sure what the question is, Senator.
Don't you think they deserve better than what you're giving them? That's my question.
I think we do our best to service our policyholders every day.
Oh, I think you do your best to make profits, and I think you're very good at it. And I think your policyholders are getting the shaft. Senator Kim.
What you just witnessed in that congressional hearing is nothing short of a masterclass in corporate tyranny. Here we have AllState Insurance, a company that's supposed to be there when Americans need them most, systematically defrauding policyholders while their executives live like kings. This is exactly the kind of crony capitalism that's destroying our country from within, and it's happening right under our noses while politicians on both sides of the aisle get rich off the same system. Let's break down what really happened here. Miss Miguel, a hardworking American who paid her premiums faithfully, gets her home damaged and expects the company she trusted to honor their contract. Instead, what does she get? A runaround that would make a used car salesman blush. 3 different adjusters sent to her property, and according to sworn testimony, 2 of those adjusters were ordered by Allstate Corporate to literally falsify their reports. Think about that for a second. They're ordering professionals to commit fraud on paper, to lie about the extent of damage, all to save the company money while this woman's home sits in ruins. This isn't incompetence, patriots. This is calculated, systematic theft. When you have multiple adjusters, people who've worked in this industry for decades, coming forward under oath and saying they were repeatedly ordered to alter damage assessments, delete findings, and essentially commit fraud to pad corporate profits, you're looking at a criminal enterprise operating under the guise of legitimate business. And let's talk about those profits for a minute. $6.4 billion in revenue, up 12% from the previous year. $4.6 billion in pure profit. The CEO, Tom Wilson, walking away with $26 million while Miss Miguel can't get her legitimate claim paid. This is the kind of wealth inequality that should outrage every conservative who believes in fair play and honest dealing. But here's where it gets really interesting, and this is where the rabbit hole goes deep. The senator mentioned something called the McKinsey report from the 1990s. For those who don't know, McKinsey & Company is one of these globalist consulting firms that's been behind some of the most destructive policies in American corporate history. They literally advised Allstate to treat insurance claims like a zero-sum game where there can only be one winner, and that winner has to be the corporation, not the policyholder. Think about the implications of that philosophy. These people looked at insurance, which is supposed to be about mutual protection and shared risk, and turned it into a predatory system designed to extract maximum profit while providing minimum service. The McKinsey strategy was simple and evil. Delay, delay, delay. Make the process so painful and expensive for the policyholder that they'll eventually give up and accept whatever scraps the company throws at them. This is exactly the kind of corporate consulting culture that's been destroying American businesses for decades. These firms come in, strip out all the human elements, all the customer service, all the integrity, and replace it with algorithms and profit maximization strategies that treat hardworking Americans like numbers on a spreadsheet. And notice how the Allstate executive responded when confronted with this evidence. Classic corporate doublespeak. When faced with sworn testimony from multiple witnesses, his response is essentially to call them all liars. When presented with documented evidence of systematic fraud, he claims ignorance. When asked about retaliation against whistleblowers, he suddenly develops amnesia about company communications. This is the same playbook we see from corrupt politicians and corporate elites across the board. Deny, deflect, and when all else fails, claim you don't remember or weren't involved. Mr. Fiato sits there claiming he's only been with the company for a year and a half, as if that absolves him of responsibility for participating in ongoing criminal activity. But here's what really gets me fired up about this whole situation. This isn't just about one insurance company. This is a symptom of a much larger disease eating away at the foundations of our republic. We've created a system where massive corporations can essentially operate above the law, where they can systematically defraud their customers. And the worst thing that happens to them is they have to sit through a congressional hearing where some senator scolds them for a few minutes. Where are the criminal charges? Where are the arrests? Where are the asset seizures? If you or I falsify documents to steal money, we'd be in handcuffs within hours. But when a billion-dollar corporation does it systematically across thousands of cases, affecting thousands of American families, suddenly it's just a civil matter that can be resolved with a fine that amounts to pocket change for these criminals. This is why we need leaders who understand that capitalism only works when it's honest capitalism, when companies succeed by providing value to their customers, not by defrauding them. What AllState is doing isn't capitalism. It's theft with a corporate logo slapped on it. And let's talk about the human cost of this corruption. Miss Miguel isn't just a statistic or a case number. She's an American who trusted a company to honor their word, who paid her premiums in good faith, and who now has to live in a damaged home while corporate executives count their bonuses. How many other families are going through the same nightmare? How many Americans have given up fighting these corporate giants because they don't have the resources or the energy to battle a billion-dollar company? This is exactly why we need to support leaders who will take on corporate corruption with the same energy they bring to fighting government overreach. The swamp isn't just in Washington. It's in corporate boardrooms across America, where executives make decisions that destroy American families while enriching themselves. The whistleblower testimony mentioned in this hearing is particularly damning. Someone who dedicated their entire adult life to the claims adjusting world, 12 years with Pilot and AllState, watching the progression of controlling nature worsen progressively. This person described internal review teams created with the sole purpose of paying claims as low as possible. Reviewers instructing adjusters to alter and delete factual findings, alterations that were often factually wrong. During Hurricane Isaac in 2012, they sent out emails saying no adjuster could buy a roof no matter the damage present. Think about that. Families whose homes were destroyed by a natural disaster, and the company they trusted to protect them issued blanket orders to deny legitimate claims regardless of the actual damage. This is sociopathic behavior disguised as business strategy. This connects to a broader pattern we're seeing across corporate America, where companies use natural disasters and emergencies as profit opportunities rather than times to step up and serve their customers. It's the same mentality that led to price gouging during the pandemic. The same thinking that turns every crisis into a chance to squeeze more money out of hardworking Americans. We need to understand that this isn't just about insurance. This is about the fundamental character of our nation. Are we going to be a country where honest dealing and fair play matter? Or are we going to let corporate criminals run roughshod over American families while hiding behind armies of lawyers and public relations firms? The retaliation aspect of this story is particularly chilling. Multiple witnesses testified that AllState retaliates against employees who dare to speak the truth about company practices. Mr. Malikanen, who had the courage to testify about what he witnessed, reportedly being told he won't be doing any further work with AllState. This is exactly the kind of intimidation tactic that keeps honest people silent while corruption flourishes. This is why we need whistleblower protections with real teeth, not just meaningless legal language that gets ignored when it's inconvenient for powerful interests. When someone risks their livelihood to expose corporate fraud that's harming American families, they should be protected and celebrated, not punished and blacklisted. The senator's frustration in this hearing is palpable, and it should be. Here you have overwhelming evidence of systematic fraud, sworn testimony from multiple witnesses, documented patterns of corruption going back decades, and the corporate response is essentially to shrug and claim everything is fine. It's insulting to the intelligence of every American watching this circus. But here's what gives me hope in all of this. The truth is coming out. Despite all the corporate spin, all the legal maneuvering, all the attempts to silence whistleblowers, the truth is still finding a way to the surface. Americans are waking up to the reality that many of these big corporations don't serve their customers. They prey on them. This is why elections matter at every level. We need attorneys general who will prosecute corporate fraud aggressively. We need insurance commissioners who understand their job is to protect consumers, not coddle insurance companies. We need representatives and senators who will do more than hold hearings, who will pass legislation with real consequences for corporate criminals. We also need to support alternative approaches to these problems. Maybe it's time to look at mutual insurance companies that are owned by their policyholders rather than distant shareholders. Maybe it's time to explore state-level solutions that bypass the federal bureaucracy entirely. Maybe it's time for red states to band together and create their own insurance frameworks that prioritize service over profit maximization. The technology exists today to revolutionize how insurance works. Blockchain technology could create transparent, tamper-proof claims processes. Artificial intelligence could eliminate the human bias and corruption that allows adjusters to be pressured into falsifying reports. Decentralized networks could connect people directly without the need for massive corporate intermediaries that exist primarily to extract profits. But none of these solutions will emerge as long as we have a rigged system that protects incumbent players from competition. This is why we need leaders who understand that draining the swamp means taking on corporate cronies just as aggressively as government corruption. Patriots, this AllState hearing is a perfect example of everything that's wrong with our current system. Massive profits for executives, scraps for the people who make those profits possible, and zero accountability when the system fails. It's exactly the kind of corruption that our founding fathers would have recognized as tyranny, just dressed up in corporate clothes instead of royal uniforms. We can't let this stand. Every time we allow corporate criminals to operate with impunity, we're surrendering a piece of our republic to forces that care more about quarterly earnings than American families. Every time we shrug and accept that this is just how business works, we're betraying the principles that made this country great. The good news is that we still have the power to change this. We can vote for leaders who will take on corporate corruption. We can support businesses that actually serve their customers. We can demand transparency and accountability from every institution that claims to serve the American people. And we can spread the word about what's really happening. That's why channels like Signal 76 exist, to cut through the corporate propaganda and tell you the truth that the mainstream media won't touch. They're too busy collecting advertising dollars from these same companies to do real investigative journalism. So here's what I want you to do after watching this video. First, share it with everyone you know. The more people who understand how this system really works, the harder it becomes for these criminals to operate in the shadows. Second, look into your own insurance policies. Read the fine print. Understand what you're really paying for. And third, get involved in the political process at every level, because that's the only way real change happens. This isn't about left versus right patriots. This is about honest Americans versus corporate criminals who think they can buy their way out of any consequences for their actions. It's about whether we're going to have a country where your word means something and contracts are honored, or whether we're going to let predatory corporations turn every aspect of American life into a profit extraction scheme. The choice is ours, but only if we're willing to fight for it. Only if we're willing to demand better from our leaders, our businesses, and ourselves. The America our founders envisioned was built on the idea that ordinary people could hold powerful interests accountable, that truth would ultimately triumph over corruption, and that honest dealing would be rewarded over clever schemes. That America is still possible, but only if we're willing to fight for it. Only if we're willing to call out corruption wherever we find it, whether it's in government buildings or corporate boardrooms. Only if we're willing to support leaders who understand that serving the American people means taking on the forces that prey on them. Make sure you subscribe to Signal 76, because we're going to keep bringing you these stories that the mainstream media ignores. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. And remember, patriots, the truth is our weapon, and knowledge is our ammunition. Together, we could drain every swamp, whether it's in Washington or Wall Street.